Hello, it's Kim,
And I'm Denise.
and we are
It's Real.
Join us as we bring the Bible to life
And discover Jesus in both the Old and New Testament. Trigger warning. This video contains descriptions of SA and SRA. This video is not for little ears. Listen with caution.
So we ended up in the foster home. We lived there for a few years. And then we went into Florida.
Our foster dad died, and
Yep.
they took us out. And
Well, they were going to adopt us separately until my stepmother stepped in. Yeah. And then we went and lived with them and Dad in Coral Springs. It was Coral Springs, Florida. Then we moved to Ocala. And then we had some things going on in Ocala. You know, the friends coming over, sexual abuse, all kinds of mess going on there, molestation, incestuation, whatever else. And then you moved in with Mom in Kentucky.
yeah, I was sent to live with my mom.
Yeah.
That I'd never met. I didn't know who she was. Who I was actually going to. I knew that they said it was my mother, but I didn't know who that was.
Right?
It must have been very scary as a little child.
It was. I was on a Greyhound bus by myself, headed to where I don't know. I had no idea.
Because you were only in third grade. Right? Third or
Second
fourth?
or third, I think. Yeah,
That was third grade.
might have been.
Baby.
Yeah.
Just a baby.
On a bus, headed to see Mom. Huh?
She wasn't even there when we pulled in.
Really?
I was kind of excited because I have a mom, you know. But Uncle Mark showed up.
Was it Uncle
It
Mark?
was Uncle Mark. There was a big snow blizzard.
Okay.
My mom couldn't make it up to Cincinnati to pick me up. So Uncle Mark. And I didn't remember who he was until we hit his backyard. And if you remember, he had two cars that didn't drive in the backyard.
Uh-huh.
And I remembered that. I'm like, did you used to have two cars? And he said, oh, yeah. And I remember who you guys are. So, yeah, it was really neat to see them. And
Yeah, so then you were with Mom for how long?
I was with my mother from, I'm not sure what age, but it was until I was 16.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Yeah.
but during that time, there was,
a
a
lot
lot going on.
Oh, that wasn't good. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so you ended up in the mental institution, right?
Yeah. Mom put me in, yeah.
And then she left you there and never went back to get you and didn't have anything else.
No, and I had no idea that is what she had done. And I remember I was looking out the window for her every family day, oh, my mom's going to come this time. I know she's going to come this time. And one day we were outside and I was on one of the swings. And one of the counselors was standing nearby. I think it was planned, I'm not sure, but he had told me, you know, your mother has used this place to abandon you, just like she did your brother a couple of years ago. And I was very angry. I didn't want to believe it. The next morning, the social worker came in and brought me down to his office, and he proceeded to tell me the same thing. And I went flying out of his office, and he went chasing after me. I turned around and I kicked him, and not so nice place, telling him, you know, don't ever say that to me again. But the reality was that she did.
Yeah. And then when you turned 18, because you stayed there till you were 18, right?
No. I was sent to an all-girls group home in Louisville.
Oh, okay, an all-girls.
And I was getting ready to turn 18. And they told me I had to call my mother to ask if she wanted to continue paying for it because when I turned 18, the insurance stopped. And so I called my mom, and she told me she was not going to pay for it. And I said, well, where am I supposed to go? And she said she didn't care, that she wasn't going to pay for it, and if I stayed, she would never speak to me again. And so I ended up running away because I was afraid I was never going to see my mom again. Still not really fully understanding that my mother was just trying to wash her hands of the situation. When I ran away, they were like, well, you're 18. So they took me down to a shelter in Louisville. There's a teen shelter. And I went in there, and my very first day, I had put all my stuff into this trunk, and they gave me a key. And I locked it up and everything. I went to the store to give me a pack of cigarettes, because when I don't know if it's like that now, but back then you got money each day that you were in state custody. And so when I left, they had given me my money, and so I went down to the corner store, and when I came back, everything I had was gone except for the clothes that I had on.
So you lived homeless for how long?
2 years.
2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so where in this picture did the interest of the other world come in?
Well, what had happened was when I was homeless on the streets, I'd been through a lot that no human should have to go through. Seen things that were just too much. But I had met this guy that I was working under the bar. I was working under the counter at this bar, and we got engaged and married, and we had a baby boy. And I called my mom, and she wasn't home, but my stepdad answered, and I told him what had happened. My mom had called, and she asked us to come down. And before that, I don't know if you knew, but I hitchhiked my way home at one point of being homeless to ask my mom, can I live here? And I was so done, so scared. And she told me no. And so I hitchhiked my way back. But then when the child came along, she's like, yes, please come down and meet my grandchild. And so we moved to Ohio, up to Cincinnati where she was at.
Oh, you moved in with Mom?
We didn't move in with her, but
she helped you get a place.
Yeah, she had a place for us when we came down. And things just kind of went sideways, and I ended up in a divorce, and I had met another guy, the guy that I'm with now, my husband now, and we had another child, 2 more children. And in that time, I was struggling to be a mom, because I was learning as I was going. I had no direction of how to be a mother. If I would have had somebody pull me aside and say, this is, but I didn't have that. And I was struggling through the different ages of their childhood, hitting the things that I had not dealt with in my childhood. Mm-hmm. And I ended up in and out of the hospital a lot. And at one point, I finally had enough, and I threw my hands up in the air, and I said, if this is what it's like walking with you, God, you can have me talking to the enemy. And I gave myself to the enemy. I did the whole ritual. He'd given me a gift of mediumship. And if I knew then what I know now, the doors that I opened for my family, my children, for myself, the horrific experience of dealing with the enemy, I would never have done it. But I had tried to kill myself so many times, and God would not take me. He just would not take me, and so I was at that point where I was ready to give it to the enemy, take it from him, and I did, and things got really, really bad, and it kept getting worse as my kids got older. It was even affecting them. They were seeing things and experiencing things and dealing with things. And
I remember them talking about stories of the demonic hauntings and things that were going on in the home.
right.
Yeah. And I remember when you came to Florida that year, you were talking about doing tarot.
Mm-hmm. That was part of the mediumship. That gift that the enemy had given me was not a gift. I should say a curse.
It didn't have strings attached.
It very well did, and
Well,
that
that's
those
not a gift.
strings involved my children.
Yeah.
So yeah, it did. And, yeah. Well,
So you understand when people say they have come from a place of evil and a place of the demonic. When you say that you have the light for the broken and you are offering prayer, it's coming from a place of understanding. That you know how Satan. I know that summer you came down, we were talking about the tarots, and you were like, well, why if it wasn't real and it didn't really, like, it's not really happening, why is it coming true? Why is it coming true when I'm reading the cards? Well, he's Satan. He's not going to draw you in.
right.
He's drawing you in through the deception of knowing spirits and giving you those answers from the knowing spirits, but that's not from the Father.
Right. Absolutely not.
And there's always an exchange with Satan. There's always a trade.
Right.
And
right.
And Satan is very legalistic, and he's very familiar with the courts of heaven. He knows the legalese and the loopholes, so he has access to people. And so, it was a legal contract that he made with you.
Yes.
And you were going to fulfill your part.
Yes.
Until
I was fulfilling my part.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And, the power of the blood of Jesus has the power to break that agreement for us. And it takes one drop of blood of the Son, Jesus. It is so powerful.
Isn't that a beautiful picture?
Yes, and that is real. It's real.
It is real. Yes, it is.
So in this kind of life that you were living in agreement with Satan, what were you finding any kind of satisfaction for the deep desires of your heart? Were you getting anything in return for this?
Just the people kind of like, wow, she's real. She's not, what she's talking about is, I had people that would call and pay, so in a way, yeah, I guess,
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was twofold, and I'll give you an example. I was doing a tarot reading one night for a friend of mine who always asked me, about her husband when he would go down to Hazard County. It was her boyfriend. She was married. He was married.
He was going where?
He'd go down to Hazard County.
Hazard County. Okay, so
that really
you
is.
fill in the blanks. Hazard County, Kentucky. I don't know what could happen in Hazard County.
Nothing good at this point.
It's a hazard.
Yes. And she would always ask me, well, what is he doing? And I had felt his rage, and I couldn't sit down. I kept pacing the floors, and I said, he is arguing, he's fighting with somebody, and he's about to kill somebody. And she started laughing at me, and she's like, he's always in bed by 8:30. Always in bed by 8:30. I'm like, no, he's fighting and arguing about that time. The phone rings. And here he is, I'm about to kill this, his rage, I felt that rage. I went home, and my husband and I had a fight, and I blacked out in rage.
Wow.
And ended up shattering a mirror. And then there was another incident where I had a friend of mine that was asking if she should send her children over to see their dad, to stay with their dad. And I had told her no, that he was going to get shot. And it was probably a month later that him and his 19-year-old son got shot together. And then, on how, as the wheel turns, I end up with a best friend and her son who got shot. So it's twofold. It is twofold. What you put out there comes back, and it comes back threefold.
So you're saying that this woman who lost her ex-husband and her son.
Well, they didn't die, but they were shot pretty bad. Yeah.
So they were injured, and then a friend that's this woman, but a different friend, and her son.
Mm-hmm. It was my best friend and her son. Mm-hmm. By her ex.
Wow. Oof.
Definitely comes back threefold.
Yeah. So talk a little bit more about what it cost you to come into agreement. What are some of the things that you experienced?
Well, I was between the rage, which had led me even deeper into my addictions, and the suicide attempts and the cutting and the, just struggling with that and trying to be a mom, trying to learn to be a mom, and the things that my children were experiencing, the fear that they had to go through feeling and seeing the things that they saw. I really felt like I was losing. I was losing everything. And the last time that it broke me down, really, really broke me down, I ended up in the hospital. And that's, I was laying in my bed and I prayed and I said, God, I have a feeling that evil has something to do with this. And if I'm right, will you show me in a way that I can't deny that it's you showing me it. And there was this boy that sat at the tables with the nurse off to the side. And nobody ever really sat there but him and the nurses, so the nurses could take care of him. He couldn't speak. All he could do was show gestures of, when he wanted to drink and stuff. That's how they knew. And he had, for some reason after I prayed that, I had went and sat at that table that I'd never sat at before. And he had laid his hands on the table and leaned forward. Because he always rocked, and he just perfectly sat still, put his hands on the table, leaned over, and said, I got you here again, didn't I? And you talk about just total shock. And the look on my face must have been so shocking, because the nurse jumped up. She said, you understood what he said. What did he say? What did he say? And I couldn't even speak to her. I ran to my room. I hid my head under my pillow and was like, did that just really happen? That just really happened. Careful what you ask for. Did that really just happen? And it did.
So that's when you realized that the demon, Satan, had really taken a hold of your life.
Yes.
How long was it after that event with that boy and coming to Jesus? How long a period was that?
I would say probably 3 or 4 years.
Okay. So you still had a little more to...
Well, I did. I had gotten out of the hospital, and I was planning on going to church, trying to pursue God, because I promised God that if He helped me out of this, that I was going to work my way back to Him. And I ended up in the bathroom, standing in the mirror, and I had slit my throat from one side to the other. And I couldn't stop it. Like, I had no control over that situation. And so I ended up back at the hospital. And when I did get out, I did pursue, and I ended up doing a exorcism with some priests, and some supernatural things did happen during that, but my body couldn't handle it. I felt like I was being ripped apart, and I quit doing that. I quit. And then I had gone to another church, and I had seeked different churches, but there were so many of them that didn't believe that Satan could really do those kind of things. And it's like, I'm telling you, this is what I'm going through. This is what I'm experiencing. I have no reason to lie about it. Help me, But yeah, so it's just, then I left it alone, and things did not get any better. Things kept getting worse, and that's when I got to the point where I was afraid I was going to lose my family, my marriage, my home.
I know my brother and I would go and speak to her, and she would get so defensive and angry at the mention of Jesus.
That was the big thing. And I still wrestled with that, with hearing the name of Jesus. When I would hear somebody speaking about Jesus, my ears would do this thing where they would feel funny, and it would stop me from having to hear it, which I was grateful for because of the uncomfortableness that I didn't know at the time that it was the spiritual battle rising up in me, but that's what it was. And then I had gone to this one church, and they had really helped me with a lot of it, and I thought it was done, it was over. I beat it, I was great. That's when we started feeding the homeless, and things had happened there that it kind of became more about money than spirituality. And so we had moved to another church, and one day we were in Bible study, and the pastor was talking about trust and faith. And I had asked him, well, isn't trust and faith the same thing? And he said no, and went into a little explanation, and he stopped and he started asking me questions. And then it came out again. And I realized that my struggle wasn't over with that. And so I prayed and I asked God, I said, show me where this is still an issue and why it's still an issue. So a couple weeks later, I'm back into the Bible study. And a couple nights before this certain Bible study, I had thoughts about my mother. And I couldn't understand exactly what it was, because I know that God had healed a lot. God had me do write out my testimony, but it was more like my whole life story. And I noticed when I was writing out my whole life story, He would have me stop after each incident, and He would not let me write again, whether it was a couple days, a week, couple weeks, until that part was healed. I didn't understand what He was doing at the time. But after I had written the whole story out, I realized, I'm having memories and they're not hitting me the way they used to. I didn't get lost in those feelings. And so when I was thinking about my mom, I'm going, okay, those feelings are coming back. What's really happening? We went to that Bible study a couple nights later, and he had mentioned something about forgiveness and healing. And I'm like, I'm praying in my head. I'm going, God, please just show me what this is. And I had picked up my phone, and which is also weird because I never take my phone into Bible study. And I had picked up my phone, and there was an article on my phone that talked about the orphan spirit. And I read that article. I had to run out of the room. I went to the bathroom and I was bawling. Like, I understood that he was showing me that I still had the orphan spirit attached. Mm-hmm. And that I'm not trusting him fully because I'm afraid he's going to abandon me. Because everybody else has done. And so now that's, working through that. And I'm very grateful that he was, willing to show me that so I could work on that.
Jesus is so good because you didn't have to have someone who was skilled in emotional or spiritual healing. Jesus stepped in and he did it the way that you needed him to do it, that you needed it to happen.
Yes.
And apparently you didn't need a human by your side. What you needed was Jesus alone.
Yes.
Because he was healing those memories and those things inside of you, but at the same time he was also healing the thing between you and him.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And I was very angry with God. At first you're this all healing and, you're the, I actually did this one exercise at a retreat and they were talking about,
putting Jesus
in the situation. And I remember walking out from that exercise, because he did show me where he was at. He showed me that one time that I was being molested, that he was by the bed crying. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I remember, I was angry at him. Why did you just sit there and cry? Why didn't you just stop it? Just stop it. And one of the hardest things for me to accept is the fact that he cannot intervene. He cannot intervene with other people's choices. And with, through the evil stuff, once I'd given myself over to the enemy, I realized that God hadn't abandoned me through that. But because I had made that choice, God couldn't intervene until I hit my knees and asked for him, for his help, until I called upon him again.
Yeah. It didn't take him long to get there, did it?
It didn't. It's been a lot of work. It's like she says, it's like peeling the layers of an onion, and then there was a lot of layers, and I don't know how Jesus did it, because boy, did I give him a piece of my mind a few times. We're not realizing that, it's like that poem, Footprints in the Sand, I can look back and see only one set of footprints. In that old time, I thought that I was abandoned through that, and really it was him carrying me. He's the reason I survived and that I'm here today.
With it being so horrible with the things that we go through in life, isn't it beautiful how Father can redeem that? How he takes and uses what we go through and we can share that with others.
That's right. And the things that people go through, and in this case Kristen, it is if you heard the details of her life, they're very dark, they're very traumatic, and a lot of times that's hard to reconcile with the Father, with God.
Yeah.
Like, why did he let this happen? Okay. Well, that's a deep theological question. And we're not going to talk about that right now, obviously, but I have heard the answer that God did that to prepare you for the works that you do now. Okay. Did it prepare her for what she does now? Absolutely. However, this was not God's design for this to happen to a child and to a young woman. This was not his design. This was the result of sin, of, number one, living in a broken world. Number two, the choices that her parents made, and then eventually the choices that Kristen made. But you can see how the choices that the parents made deeply affected what happened to the child, and then eventually the decisions that she made. Because she has to have love. Everyone has to have love and acceptance in their life. And whatever that looks like, however a person thinks they can get it, that's generally what they're going to do. And so, a lot of decisions are based on, how am I going to get this insatiable need for love in my life met? So we can make a lot of bad decisions with it. However, God in his mercy, he redeems all of that. He redeems it, and he restores back to you, what you need. What Satan tries to take. And if you listen to her story, we know that Satan comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And with Kristen's story, and you listen to it, Satan was not content just to kill, steal, and destroy Kristen, but everything around her, her children, her marriage, everything around her. He was going to take it all, and he was intent on doing that. And it was like Satan was ready for the final plunge with the knife to end it for Kristen, and God said, no. And so God has redeemed the things that she has walked through, and he healed her in this process. This amazing process, this healing that he did with Kristen. She didn't need a team of church ladies to do this with, and some of us, myself included, I needed a human being to walk with me through this process. But that's not what Kristen needed, and Jesus knew exactly what she needed. And he healed her. He healed her memories as she's writing out her testimony, which is incredible that he made her stop and kind of dive deep into the feelings and the forgiveness and all of that. So he healed. This is amazing. This is amazing.
If you want to know if it's real, then
admit you're a sinner. Romans 3:10. As it is written, there is none righteous, no, not one.
And as it is written in Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God.
Believe that Jesus is Lord. Romans 10:9-10.
Because if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved.
And call upon the name of the Lord. Romans 10:13. For whoever calls in the name of the Lord shall be saved. If you enjoyed this episode,
like, subscribe, and share.
you can contact us at
contactitisreal@gmail.com.